Welcome back, everybody, to the Sports File, a 35-year reboot. This is episode number 18. So today's episode, we're gonna have three topics. Pretty quick hit since we just recorded late last week. We'll cover the Denver Broncos, recapping them versus San Diego Chargers, and look ahead to tonight's game versus New Orleans Saints, the homecoming for Sean Payton. We'll quickly then look at kind of where the presidential polls are kind of leading. Thoughts on the race, and then we'll talk about Vail, Colorado. Topic number one, the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos laid an absolute goose egg against the Chargers. Not the best game whatsoever for Bo Nix. I think, a little disappointing, I think. I think you really, if you could get by this game, you were in a pretty good position to kind of maybe rattle off 3 games in a row, and now they obviously didn't. Bo didn't look good. It really didn't look good for most of the game. Their offense is borderline boring still. I don't know what the deal is. Sean Payton is this offensive genius, and I know he's trying to groom Bo Nix, and maybe that's the best way as I'm talking through this right now is to kind of think through it, is that we do want to kind of groom, or Payton wants to groom Bo Nix into the quarterback he wants, which is all about timing, accuracy. We saw that last week with their little spat on the sideline where Sean got in his face, Bo Nix got right back in his face, and he basically was arguing over why did you flip a play. So he wants it run the way he wants it to be run. And Bo Nix, I think one of the things after they lost the game, they clearly, they got some garbage time at the end there. They ended up losing 23-16. Both sort of came alive in the fourth quarter when they were kind of running a more hurry up. But let's be honest, the Chargers at that point were kind of fading back into a prevent defense, and they were kind of letting the Broncos do what they sort of wanted. It's almost like that bend but don't break rule. Broncos were able to score 2 touchdowns, which is great to see. But when I look at grades, I'm up on Sports Illustrated, giving him a grade of 31.6 for Bo Nix. Not great. Obviously, the first 50 minutes of the game, he did start getting hot with the Chargers, but again, this was going into more of a no huddle / let's move quickly. Chargers in a prevent, so of course you're going to get some yardage and chunk plays there. What I do like about him is his elusiveness. I mean, he is definitely faster than I think anybody thought. He made an incredible run for a first down late in the game to kind of extend the series. He really did kind of pick it up, but they do need to see Bo kind of in this full 60 minutes. My expectations on this team are, I think, maybe I get caught up a little bit about it, thinking, they can go on a run and maybe we're looking at playoffs. I think if this is a close to 500 team, I think that's one thing. And then 2, more important to me, is that if Sean Payton thinks he has his guy in Bo Nix, they've got to keep developing this guy. And I think with that comes maybe a sacrifice of some wins. We were missing the number 2 wide receiver. I think it was great to see kind of Troy Franklin finally come out and get a touchdown pass, his first, an old teammate of Bo Nix at Oregon. So he had I think I read a stat where it was the first time a center to the QB to the wide receiver in the pro game. They were all teammates in college to connect on a touchdown pass there. His ratings, let's look at it. He was, the completion percentage of 57.6%, so kind of like regressed here, but threw up 216 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception for a rating of 84.9. He's now trending at over 1,082 yards on the season, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions with a 73.7% rating. When we look at kind of looking ahead of who's doing what, I'm looking at the Denver Post article that was published, the picks that are out there. I mean, if you really look at, before we get to the picks, if we really were to step back and look at, who has the edge here, according to the Denver Post, and this is very statistical oriented. When the Broncos run, they're giving the edge to the Broncos. This is versus the Saints, obviously. When the Broncos pass, they're giving the edge to the Broncos. When the Saints run, they're going to give the edge to the Broncos, as well as the passing game. So there's four out of the 5 big areas they're giving the edge to the Broncos. Defense has still been incredible for the Denver Broncos. They're just playing at such a high level, and they're deservedly so. When I'm looking at their total defense, they're fourth in the league right now overall. Run defense is 14th, but they make up for it in their pass defense at fifth. Be interesting to see where they kind of land with Pat Surtain, because I think that you're definitely gonna miss him. He's just you can't replace a player like this, a shutdown corner. Special teams, they're giving the edge to the Denver Broncos. Coaching, which is super interesting. They're giving an edge. They're calling it even, which is a homecoming game for Peyton. Slightly offensive, but the way Peyton's been performing and kind of coaching, it's probably warranted at this point. And then we're bumping into old friend Clint Kubiak, which is Gary Kubiak's son, who has previously been on the staff here in Denver in a various couple roles. He was a QB coach at one point, but they're really, really kind of improving under him, and he's definitely kind of on the rise, Clint Kubiak, which is probably why they're giving the edge. Let's look at some of their predictions here. They got Denver Post, a great Parker Gabriel has the Saints 20-17. Interesting. The beat writer. Broncos are favored in this game by 2.5, which slightly probably more. It's a way to interpret that as typically an underdog, or rather, I'm sorry, a home team is typically gets 3 points. No matter what, just because of the home field advantage. Here you can see basically he's saying, yeah, bank it, and then we're going to take the Saints at 20 and the Broncos 17. Ryan McFadden, another beat writer, Broncos 24, Saints 14. Troy Rennick, the columnist, a great Troy Rennick, who's now an opinionist for the Denver Post, has Broncos 24, Saints 20. Matt Schubert, their sports editor, has Saints 20, Broncos 19 in a close game. I mean, he's right. His first sentence is Thursday night football can get weird. And it can. These are typically more low-scoring games. Last week was kind of an anomaly there. But typically, you're not getting a lot of time to prepare on both sides. You have a Sunday night game. Leaves you with Monday, you're watching film. Tuesday, you're practicing. Wednesday, you're out flying there. A quick walkthrough Wednesday night, and then the game is Thursday night. So not much. I mean, really, their preparation started right after the game. But again, short week, tough. Let's go. My prediction. I will take the Broncos this week. I'm probably going to get bitten hard by this, but let's say Broncos in the neighborhood of 23, Saints 13. I think the Broncos D comes up big. Next topic. The presidential election. Okay, where are we with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris? All right, going to my favorite website, Real Clear Politics. Underneath that is Real Clear Polling. Let's see. We've got a bunch of different updates. Last updated on the 14th was by Fox News, +2. The aggregate right now is 1.5 for Harris. Getting at some of the other polls, Rasmussen, which was updated on the 15th, +1 for Trump. Harris, the tip poll, updated on the 16th, +3. We have Reuters on the 13th, +3 Harris. Harvard on the 13th, +2. Close race still, 1.5. Looks like her lead is maintaining that 1.5. It looks like that could be potentially her floor when I go back through time. Yeah, that looks like it's her floor right now. She briefly bounced up to 1.7 and then dropped up 1.6, now down 1.5. Trump's maintaining that 47. He just bumps in and around 47% right now. And she's been sitting at the 49 percentile for quite some time, really dating back all the way to September. So I think we've seen kind of where we are right now. She's not going to probably get over 50% before the election. He may touch 48. I doubt it. He hasn't been at plus 48 since July 29th. So close race. This week we had Kamala Harris went on Fox News, which I think is great. I actually think it'd be great to see Trump go on like an MSNBC. Dana Piero from Fox News said, she welcomes, she thinks it's a great idea that candidates, she's a former communications director under Bush, said it's great, go on your the opponent's quote unquote network, which Fox News heavily leans to the right. She did. It was a tough interview by Brett Baer. I think he was, asked fair but tough questions. I think she handled it well. I think, again, two sides of the story. Trump supporters would say, oh my God, Brett Baer was amazing. He buried her. She's an idiot. And then on the left, they'd say, God, why was he mansplaining? She was great. She was tough. She did this. She did that. I think it was fine. It's not going to move the needle. These things are not moving the needle anymore. And the reality is you're going after like such a small population. If we look at the spread right now, 49 to 47, you're going after 2% of the market that's undecided. And the reality is some of those are going to vote for some of the third-party candidates that are out there. So, again, you're not really moving the needle here. Kamala has a town hall, I believe it's next week on CNN. That should be, again, you're not trying to, anybody who's watching CNN, and maybe some moderates that would watch it would be tuned in and say, okay, if she can go deeper on her policies, you might say, okay. Voting has opened up in a bunch of states, like here in Colorado. I just voted today. So voting's totally opened up, and early voting is proceeding as planned. Trump's been hitting some other podcasts, really embracing that median. Went on Bussing with the Boys this week. Had kind of a bizarre interaction earlier this week in Pennsylvania where he played music for 30 minutes, but whatever. So next week, I think we'll talk more about this. We'll kind of level out the polls. Next week is going to put us, let's see, if we look at the calendar, the 24th, we're less than 2 weeks to the election, the actual election on the 5th. So I think we'll come up with a prediction here and kind of essentially stop talking about this until after the election. So look for next week for me to come up with a prediction. Last topic for this week. Hey, Vail, Colorado. Hadn't been to Vail. And actually stayed there, and I can't remember the last time. My son, my youngest son, was out last week. He, just side rant here. Again, not to get off my lawn guy, but I'm just saying he essentially went to school last week on Monday for a PSAT test and then had the rest of the week off. Back in my day, we went to... we did that on a Saturday, but I'm sure there's all sorts of equity issues why they're sort of doing it now. But it creates quite the dilemma of what you're going to do with a 16-year-old while he's out of school. Not only did they do the testing, and then that rolled into his fall break, which was Thursday, Friday, and Monday. So did it on impromptu trip, just myself and my son up to Vail, Colorado. About 2 hours, for the folks listening, 2 hours west of Denver. Really easy to get to. Beautiful time of year to go up there. I'd say this time of October. I told my wife, hey, for next year's fall break, let's go up and spend the weekend. It was just beautiful. Not as busy, not as touristy, just a lot more local people kind of doing what I was doing, getting away for a fall break. Stayed at the Grand Hyatt, which is it would be in West Vail, kind of like at the end. You've got Vail Village, you got Lions Head, then you got West Vail. Or Cascade Village, as they're calling it. We stayed there. Great hotel. Amazing place. Great to stay in the off season. Rates are low. I had points. I travel a lot for work, and I've accumulated so many Hyatt points through the years. Great property. Pool, open. Hot tubs spread all around. Great lobby with a big fireplace. They had, a marketplace where you could get kind of coffee or sandwiches with a kind of game room. They had a pizza place that was actually closed because they were entering their kind of quote unquote buffer season where they take a break essentially until ski season picks up. They had a Japanese restaurant, Mokoto, and then they had the kind of their on-site little American style restaurant that was great. Had a lot of fun. Weather was beautiful, as I was saying. It was about 65 to 75 both days. Got up there with him. We just kind of chilled out, had a nice dinner at that American-style restaurant. And we had, I'm trying to remember, I had a steak. He had a steak. Actually, we had the same meal. We both had steak. And it was great. Really, really great. And the Grand Hyatt backs up to the river that goes through there. So you get in the foliage and just past peak, but you still had enough out there that the views were just spectacular. We had a great dinner that night, Went back, hung out, watched some movies, and then the next day we were able to go for a nice hike along the Gore Creek Trail. We did walked down to Lion's Head into a little bit of Vail Village along this kind of like pedestrian walkway, kind of like a bike path pedestrian walkway. River is totally dried up. You can see where we desperately need some moisture here. We definitely need it to start snowing up there in the mountains. But still beautiful nonetheless. We were able to just have a really, really nice day. Went to this great restaurant called Makoito, as I'm quickly looking it up here. And I'll let you know more about it in one sec. I should have been more prepared. Great little restaurant in Vail, brand new, kind of newish or newer to the scene up there. Makoto. It is a little bit of a chain. They've got a bunch of them out there. Let me see. It looks like they've got a bunch of different locations, but it's owned by Makoto Okua, and he ushers Japanese cuisine into the 21st century. Great sushi up there. I mean, really, really outstanding. It was last night they were serving it before they go on quote unquote holiday for 2 weeks. They have just a wide selection, kind of what you typically see, but the rolls were great. My son loves rolls. We got everything under the sun that we could imagine. A spicy tuna roll, a yellowtail tuna roll that was excellent. He got a California roll. We did a specialty roll as well that was wonderful. And then we got this crispy rice that was just fantastic. You can learn more about the restaurant. I love the design of the place. Super modern, Japanese style decorating design. We ordered way too much sushi. We definitely ordered way too many rolls. We left behind a few. You can check them out at Makoto restaurant.com. Makoto is spelled Makoto. So we had a great meal there. Went back and then used the hot tubs. Enjoyed the little fireplace that was going as it got chillier at night. And then actually just chilled out that night again. Rooms are big, beautiful, brand new. Great place. Looked at it in the wintertime. I was like, oh, we should come up here skiing when we have our Epic Pass and we can come skiing and spend the weekend. We will not be doing that. It's $1,200 a night, no matter whether it's a weeknight or weekend. Basically from January, and then it gets really expensive in March. You're looking at $1,500 a night. So great time to visit if you're ever in Vail. Go check out the Grand Hyatt. Thoroughly enjoyed spending time with my youngest. He's the best. Me and him share a birthday, so it's always a kind of a little bond that we have, and love hanging out with him and getting to experience all great things within Colorado over the last weekend. All right, that is it for the Sports File, a 35-year reboot. That was episode 18. We'll talk next week. We'll debrief how the Denver Broncos fared against New Orleans Saints. Probably get into a prediction time with the presidential election. And then I'll come up with another restaurant that we can kind of talk about at the end. All right, I'll talk to you next week. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment wherever you listen to your podcasts.